Bible in a Year, the Message Version, March 25, Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 1 through verse 49. Now listen, Israel. Listen carefully to the rules and regulations that I am teaching you to follow so that you may live and enter and take possession of the land that God, your God of your fathers, is giving to you. Don't add a word to what I command you, and don't remove a word from it. Keep the commands of God, your God, that I am commanding you. You saw with your own eyes what God did at Balpor, how God destroyed from among you every man who joined in Balpor's orgies. But you, the ones who held tight to God, your God, are alive and well in every one of you today. Pay attention. I'm teaching the rules and regulations that God commanded me so that you may live by them in the land you are entering to take ownership. Keep them, practice them. You'll become wise and understanding. When people hear and see what's going on, they'll say, "What a great nation, so wise, so understanding. We've never seen anything like it." Yes. What other great nation has gods that are intimate with them the way God, our God, is with us, always ready to listen to us? And what other great nations has rules and regulations as good and fair as this revelation that I'm setting before you today? Just make sure you stay alert. Keep close watch over yourselves. Don't forget anything of what you've seen. Don't let your heart wander off. Stay vigilant as long as you live. Teach what you've seen and heard to your children and grandchildren. That day you stood before God, your God, at Horeb, God said to me, "Assemble the people in my presence to listen to my words so that they will learn to fear me in holy fear for as long as they live in the land, and then they'll teach the same words to their children." You gathered. You stood in the shadow of the mountain. The mountain was ablaze with fire, blazing high into the very heart of heaven. You stood in deep darkness and thick clouds. God spoke to you out of the fire. You heard the sound of words, but you saw nothing, no form, only a voice. He announced his covenant, the 10 words by which he commanded you to live. Then he wrote them down on 2 slabs of stone. And God commanded me at that time to teach you the rules and regulations that you are to live by in the land which you are crossing over the Jordan to possess. You saw no form on that day. God spoke to you at Horeb from out of the fire. Remember that. Carefully guard yourself so that you don't turn corrupt and make a form, carving a figure that looks male or female, or looks like a prowling animal or a flying bird or a slithering snake or a fish in a stream. And also carefully guard yourself so that you don't look up into the skies and see the sun and moon and stars and all the constellations of the sky and be seduced into worshiping and serving them. God set them out for everybody's benefit, everywhere. But you, God took you right out of the iron furnace, out of Egypt, to become the people of his inheritance. And that's what you are to this very day. But God was angry with me because of you and the things you said. He swore that I'd never cross the Jordan, never get to enter the good land that God, your God, is giving you as an inheritance. This means that I'm going to die here. I'm not crossing the Jordan, but you will cross. You'll possess the good land. So stay alert. Don't for a minute forget the covenant which God, your God, made with you. And don't take up with any carved image, no forms of any kind. God, your God, issued clear commands on that. God, your God, is not to be trifled with. He's a consuming fire, a jealous God. When the time comes that you have children and grandchildren, put on years and start taking things for granted, if you then become corrupt and make any carved images, no matter what their form, by doing what is sheer evil in God's eyes and provoking his anger, I can tell you right now, with heaven and earth as witnesses, that it will be all over for you. You'll be kicked off the land that you're about to cross over the Jordan to possess. Believe me, you'll have a very short stay there. You'll be ruined, completely ruined. God will scatter you far and wide. A few of you will survive here and there in the nations where God will drive you. There you can worship your homemade gods to your heart's content, your wonderful gods of wood and stone that you can't see or hear or eat or smell. But even there, if you seek God, your God, you'll be able to find him if you're serious, looking for him with your whole heart and soul. When troubles come and all these awful things happen to you, in future days you will come back to God, your God, and listen obediently to what he says. God, your God, is above all compassionate God. In the end, he will not abandon you. He won't bring you to ruin. He won't forget the covenant with you that he made with your ancestors and swore to them. Ask questions. Find out what has been going on all these years before you were born. From the day God created man and woman on the earth, and from the horizon in the east to the horizon in the west, as far back as you can imagine and as far away as you can imagine, has as great a thing as this ever happened? Has anyone ever heard of such a thing? Has a people ever heard, as you did, a God speaking out of the middle of a fire and lived to tell the story? Or has a God ever tried to select for himself a nation from within a nation, using trials, miracles, and war, putting his strong hand in, reaching his long arm out, a spectacular, awesome, and staggering, the way God, your God, did it for you in Egypt while you stood there and watched? You were shown all of this so that you would know that God is, well, God. He's the only God there is. He's it. He made it possible for you to hear his voice out of heaven to discipline you. Down on earth, he showed you the big fire, and again you heard his words, this time out of the fire. He loved your ancestors and chose to work with their children. He personally and powerfully brought you out of Egypt in order to displace bigger and stronger and older nations with you, bringing you out and turning their land over to you as an inheritance. And now it's happening this very day. Know this well then. Take it to heart right now. God is in heaven above. God is on earth below. He's the only God there is. Obediently live by his rules and commands, which I am giving you today, so that you'll live well, and your children after you, oh, you'll live a long time in the land that God, your God, is giving you. Then Moses set aside 3 towns in the country on the east side of the Jordan, to which someone who had unintentionally killed a person could flee and find refuge. If the murder was unintentional and there was no history of bad blood, the murderer could flee to one of these cities and save his life. Bezer in the wilderness, on the tableland for the Reubenites, Ramoth and Gilead for the Gadites, and Golan in Bashan for the Massanites. This is the revelation that Moses presented to the people of Israel. These are the testimonies, the rules, the regulations Moses spoke to the people of Israel after their exodus from Egypt and arrival on the east side of the Jordan in the valley near Beth-peor. It was the country of Sihon, king of the Ammonites, who ruled from Heshbon. Moses and the people of Israel fought and beat him after they left Egypt and took his land. They also took the land of Og, king of Bashan. The two Amorite kings held the country on the east of the Jordan from Aurora, on the bank of the brook Arnon, as far north as Mount Sion, that is, Mount Hermon, all the Arabah plains east of the Jordan, and as far south as the Sea of Arabah, the Dead Sea, beneath the slopes of Mount Pisgah. Luke chapter 6, verse 39 through chapter 7, verse 10. He, Jesus, quoted a proverb, "Can a blind man guide a blind man? Wouldn't they both end up in the ditch?" An apprentice doesn't lecture the master. The point is to be careful who you follow as your teacher. It's easy to see a smudge on your neighbor's face and be oblivious to the ugly sneer on your own. Do you have the nerve to say, "Let me wash your face for you," when your own face is distorted by contempt? It's this "I know better than you" mentality again, playing a holier than thou part instead of just living your own part. Wipe that ugly sneer off your own face, and you might be fit to offer a washcloth to your neighbor. You don't get wormy apples off a healthy tree, nor good apples off a diseased tree. The health of an apple tells the health of the tree. You must begin with your own life-giving lives. It's who you are, not what you say and do, that counts. Your true being brims over into true words and deeds. Why are you always so polite with me? Always saying, "Yes, sir," and "That's right, sir," but never doing a thing I tell you. These words I speak to you are not mere additions to your life, homeowner improvements to your standard of living. They are foundational words, words to build a life on. If you work the words into your life, you are like a smart carpenter who dug deep and laid the foundation of his house on a bedrock. When the river burst into banks and crashed against the house, nothing could shake it. It was built to last. But if you just use my words in Bible studies and don't work them into your life, you are like a dumb carpenter who built a house but skipped the foundation. When the swollen river came crashing in, it collapsed like a house of cards. It was a total loss. When he finished speaking to the people, he entered Capernaum. A Roman captain there had a servant who was on his deathbed. He prized him highly and didn't want to lose him. When he heard Jesus was back, he sent leaders from the Jewish community asking him to come and heal his servant. They came to Jesus and urged him to do it, saying, "He deserves this. He loves our people. He even built our meeting place." Jesus went with them. When he was still quite far off from the house, the captain sent friends to tell him, "Master, you don't have to come through all this trouble. I'm not that good a person, you know. I'm embarrassed for you to come to my house, even embarrassed to come to you in person. Just give the order, my servant will get well." I'm a man under orders. I also give orders. I tell one soldier, go, and he goes. Another, come, and he comes. My slave, do this, and he does it. Taken aback, Jesus addressed the accompanying crowd. I've yet to come across this kind of simple trust anywhere in Israel. The very people who are supposed to know about God and how He works. When the messengers got back home, they found the servant up and well. Psalm chapter 68, verse 1 through verse 18. A David psalm. Up with God, down with his enemies. Adversaries, run for the hills. Gone like a puff of smoke, like a blob of wax in the fire. One look at God and the wicked vanish. When the righteous see God in action, they'll laugh. They'll sing. They'll laugh and sing for joy. Sing hymns to God, all heaven. Sing out. Clear the way for the coming of Cloud Rider. Enjoy God. Cheer when you see him. Father of orphans, champion of widows, is God in his holy house. God makes homes for the homeless, leads prisoners to freedom, but leaves rebels to rot in hell. God, when you took the lead with your people, when you marched out into the wild, earth shook, sky broke out in a sweat. God was on the march. Even Sinai trembled at the sight of God on the move, at the sight of Israel's God. You pour out rain in buckets, O God. Thorn and cactus become an oasis for your people to camp in and enjoy. You set them up in businesses. They went from rags to riches. The Lord gave the word. Thousands called out the good news. Kings of the armies are on the run, while housewives, safe and sound back home, divide up the plunder of Canaanite silver and gold. On the day that Shaddai scattered the kings, snow fell on Black Mountain. You huge mountains, Bashan mountains, mighty mountains, dragon mountains, all you mountains not chosen, sulk now and feel sorry for yourselves, for this is the mountain God has chosen to live on. He'll rule from this mountain forever. The chariots of God, twice 10,000 and 1,000 more besides, the Lord in the lead, riding down Sinai, straight to the holy place. You climb to the high place, captives in stow, your arms full of plunder from rebels, and now you sit there in state, God, sovereign God. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 28. A life devoted to things is a dead life, a stump. A God-shaped life is flourishing tree. This was the reading for March 25.